Sup, UFC Fight Night Mario Bautista versus Vinicius Oliveira takes place this weekend, and I can't tell you how excited I am for this fight night. I'm not. Now, don't get me wrong, this fight night has a lot of good fights, ones that I think will truly deliver. We might see a good amount of finishes on here, but overall, the name value is not too good when you compare it to the previous 2 weeks of UFC 325 and UFC 324. But that doesn't matter. We're not here to rate a card today. We're here to predict them. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the early prelim opener of Claudia Segula versus Priscilla Cachoeira. Now, I'll be honest, for this first matchup, I don't know too much about these ladies. I have seen some of their fights, I think, but I just don't know too much about them all around. But going into it, it looks like Priscilla Cachoeira has about twice the experience that her opponent Claudia does. I have to take that into account. They're relatively the same size. And I'm going to be honest here, we're going to use the women's MMA math. Whichever one looks more like a man will get the win, so we're taking Cachoeira. That's my first fight. Don't hate me for it. We move on. Muin Gafurov versus Jakub Wiklak. I think that's Polish. It's hard to pronounce. This is a really tough fight. Muin Gafurov is a good fighter. I can't remember his opponents, but I remember his fights. He typically does pretty well on the feet and then gets it to the ground pretty easily where you can see his hairy back. But Jakub Wiklak, I think, is coming off of that win over Patchy Mix, who we don't know how well of a win. We don't know how much of a win that really is, aging, looking back at it. But I think it's still a good win nonetheless. But Jakub's still pretty green to this. I understand he's got a good record. He's early in his career. He hasn't really tasted defeat too much. So he's probably pretty confident in this matchup. And I could see him being well-rounded enough to get this. But I feel like the consistency of the Muin Gafurov grappling is going to be what decides this fight. It's in Vegas, so there's not going to be any favoritism here. But I don't know. I think I'm going to take Muin Gafurov over a 3-round decision. I think he's just going to get his grappling off. Jakub Wiklak is probably going to have his striking, in moments and hurt Gafurov, or maybe Gafurov beats him on the feet. But I just don't see Wiklak winning the ground. Maybe he can scramble out of it, but I think Gafurov has dominating pressure and control on the ground. Yeah, it's probably going to be a 29-28 decision. Arguably could be a robbery, but we're going to go with Gafurov on that one. All right, moving on to the next fight. Women's flyweight, Wang Kong versus Eduarda Mora. I'll be honest, I don't know too much about Eduarda Mora. She seems to be a well-rounded fighter. A little bit bigger than Wang Kong in terms of her reach, but I know a lot about Wang Kong. I've seen a lot of her fights, even the fight that she lost via, crazy, got rocked, and then submitted, I think. She was winning that entirely beforehand, not just point fest, putting damage on her opponent. She's consistently a very good striker, able to land big shots that you don't see too often in women's MMA. And I think that's going to matter over a 3-round fight here. Maybe not a finish in the back pocket, but I think Wang Kong is going to decisively outstrike her opponent and win, probably 30-27 unanimous decision. Pretty clear cut to this, so let's go ahead and move on to the next fight. All right, next fight, Said Nurmagomedov versus Javid Basharat. Now, this is a really tough matchup. This is honestly, I've really had a hard time thinking about who I think is going to win this matchup because Said Nurmagomedov is Nurmagomedov. He's got the name. I don't know if he's directly related, but he has the grappling. He's Dagestani. He's from that group. He's obviously a hard worker, a tough fighter. He lost his last fight. He was very exhausted due to the headliner of this fight night, Vinicius Oliveira, I believe. Either way, it was a really good fight. He's reliable. He has the grappling, but the Basharat bros are nothing to be ashamed about. Javid especially, very good. He did have that terrible loss I think he's coming off of, where he got slept out cold by, oh my God, why can't I remember his name? Ricky Simone, was it? So I worry about his chin. I worry about his durability, maybe his confidence going into this, but he consistently delivers. He's only tasted loss twice. Yeah, twice in his career. I mean, he's a slick striker, and then he has offensive grappling when he needs it. He's a very well-rounded fighter, and I just don't think Said has the output, but he doesn't have the power, and when things start to not go well on the feet, he tends to panic shoot. He doesn't really offensively set up his shots. It's kind of in desperation. And I worry about that when this fight goes on because I think Javid is very durable, and I don't see Nurmagomedov landing the shot that would put him out. I think I'm going to take Javid Basharat over 3 rounds. I don't see a finish happening in this fight. If there is a finish, it could be Nurmagomedov gasses again, and Basharat, volume TKOs or subs him. I just don't see Said Nurmagomedov winning a decision without gassing or getting a finish over a guy like Basharat because he really did get caught against Ricky Simone. He was doing quite well in that fight, but it is what it is. I'm taking Basharat by decision. We move on. The next fight, Bruna Brazil versus Ketlin Souza. Now, again, women's MMA, I'm not the most knowledgeable. Bruna Brazil and Ketlin both coming off of losses. Not sure by the method if it was finish or decision. But you just got to use MMA math here. I mean, when you're going into a women's MMA matchup and you don't know much about either of them, they're both coming off losses, take the one that looks like a man. I mean, Ketlin Souza, I did look at her stats. She's, a pretty good striker, well-rounded grappler, and I think her being the shorter opponent going to be more aggressive. A lot of women's MMA fighters haven't figured out how to, stop the shorter opponent's grappling when you're up against the cage. And I think that's just going to play in here. I could definitely see Souza being a little ball of muscle, trudging forward, trying to land big shots on Brazil. And if things aren't going her way on the feet, or if she sees Bruna starting to wilt, I think she's going to, pressure against the cage, clinch work, try to get single legs, try to get double legs off the cage. Taking Ketlin Souza by 3-round decision. We move on. Nikolai Varetnikov versus Nico Price. Now, both of these gentlemen coming off of losses, being towards the tail end of their career. They both are kill-or-be-killed fighters with high KO, TKO rates and low grappling rates, so this is going to be an explosive fight. But after that Robbie Lawler matchup, I just don't trust Nico Price in the slightest. I mean, whether that was, rigged to have Robbie Lawler get a good retirement because it was suspicious, I don't know. But if his chin is that weak and he consistently doesn't look that, looks that, bad and, just frail in the octagon, I understand Varetnikov's no spring chicken himself, but I'm just going to take him over Nico Price. It's really a matchup of who do you trust not to wilt. And just looking at their body language, I mean, Nico looks like he was, dude, we're moving on. Alex Morono versus Daniel Donchenko. Now, I'm judging by this picture that this might be Donchenko's UFC debut from an outside regional promotion, and I don't know much about him, to be honest, but his opponent, Alex Morono, I do know a lot about. In all matchups, he'll have good striking. Maybe he'll be going 50-50 on the feet, but his chin doesn't hold up. He got KO'd, I think it was Santiago Ponzinibbio, I think it was. That's just a hard name to remember. Where's he at? I think Alex Morono might have TKO'd him, but either way, Morono was looking good in one of his recent fights and then just got slept out cold, and I think that's what he's coming off of here. And Donchenko seems to be coming off of a win streak. He's only lost twice in his career, even though he's got half the fights that a guy like Morono does, probably closer to a third in all honesty. But they're relatively the same size. Donchenko looks muscular. It looks like he can use that. He's explosive. Morono's slow. They don't have the age listed, but Morono's old. He hasn't looked good in recent outings. He's never really been near the top of the UFC. So we're taking Daniel Donchenko. He'll probably get a finish in round 1 here. If it's his UFC debut and he's looking to make a statement, I think he's going to come in there aggressive and get it done. We move on to the main card. All right, on to the next fight. Dustin Jacoby versus Julius Walker. Now, these are both big guys, light heavyweights, but I think I know who I'm taking. I'm taking Dustin Jacoby. Now, when you look at Dustin Jacoby, he's coming off of, I think, a 2-fight win streak with KOs over Vitor Petrino and Bruno Lopez. But if you look at Julius Walker, he's coming off of a decision win to Rafael Cachoeira. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Cachoeira just got brutalized in 1 minute by a schmuck. Maybe he wasn't a schmuck, but all that to say, Julius Walker is not impressive, nor is his resume, and Dustin Jacoby is a freight train. This is Hydrogen Bomb versus Coughing Baby. We're taking Dustin Jacoby round 1 KO. We're moving on. All right, on to our next matchup. Gene Matsumoto versus Farid Basharat. The Basharat brothers are both competing tonight. That's pretty cool. We're going to take Basharat to win this one, actually. Matsumoto, he's decent. He's well-rounded, but he's only coming off of that 1 win streak. I don't even know what Basharat's on, but I know that Matsumoto has been beaten in times out. He's a bit small for the division, it seems. Definitely giving up a bit of reach here against a guy like Basharat, who's explosive, aggressive, and undefeated, and I'm going to take that every time in a matchup. But I don't think he's going to get a finish in this one. It's probably going to be a classic bantamweight decision where he wins the striking and grappling decisively through all 3 rounds. That's my pick. Basharat Bros going 2-0. Come on. And now we're moving on to the next fight. Mikhail, I'm not even going to try to remember that last name because I can't pronounce it, versus Marc-Andre Barriault. I forgot to say this. We're on the main card now. Not great name value. We're taking Marc-Andre Barriault. I understand Mikhail's pretty, mid in a way. I think he lost to Kevin Holland. He got armbarred and it broke. He's coming off of a win, and I think it was a good KO, but he's not consistent in any way. And I understand Marc-Andre Barriault's coming off that loss, but he's aggressive, he's strong, and he's durable. I understand he's coming off that loss, but his striking, dude, didn't he put a dent in Bruno Silva's head? Maybe that was a different guy or a different fight, but Marc-Andre Barriault, from what I remember, is a scary, aggressive striker with decent grappling. And I just don't see a guy like Mikhail doing much to outdo either of those aspects of his game. So we're going to take Marc-Andre Barriault. But Mikhail is a little bit durable, so we'll take Marc-Andre Barriault round 2, round 3 TKO. It could go to a decision, but I keep saying Mikhail, I don't want to mess it up. But Mikhail, I think he's a finish or be finish kind of fighter. He rarely likes to go to a decision, in my opinion. So I'm taking Marc-Andre Barriault. I think the finish will show up later in the fight as damage builds. Next fight. Moving up the card on to the next fight, we have my favorite sleeping medicine, Jailton Almeida, versus my favorite steroid, Rizvan Kuniev. Jailton Almeida coming off a controversial loss, but one that I greatly supported against Alexander Volkov because he didn't strike. He doesn't strike. He just grapples. He thinks that this is like ADCC no-gi. Like, I don't get it. But his opponent, Rizvan Kuniev's, obviously is decent. He made it very, very close with a guy like Curtis Blades, who I think KO'd Jailton Almeida. But Rizvan is also a steroid cheat, and he had literally pissed hot like more times than I can count on one hand for like serious PEDs and other organizations. And Dana signed him. Can't make it up. But I don't think it's enough against a guy like Jailton. While Curtis Blades has the finishing it, he just got lucky there, really. I don't know what Jailton was doing just sitting there. And he just gave the opportunity for Blades to rain down elbows. I don't want to say it was luck. Obviously, it was calculated. He thought about it. But he just gave him a really dumb position. I don't think against a guy like Rizvan Kuniev, he's going to give him that dumb position, nor is he going to... I don't think Kuniev's putting him out. I just don't. I think Jailton is pretty durable. Obviously, the ground and pound from Blades did a lot of damage to him. But I don't think we're going to see Almeida stuck on a single leg sprawled against the cage. If Rizvan's still on the sauce, this could be a very close competitive fight because he made it stupid close with Blades. But if he's off the sauce and... dude, Jailton Almeida is going to wet blanket him. What else do I have to say? Moving on to the co-main event of the evening. These are great fighters, but boy, is this a shit co-main. Amir Albazi versus Kyoji Horiguchi. Amir Albazi is a decent guy, like striker. He didn't get that win over Kai Kara-France. I think that was the robbery, and he's also coming off of a loss, whereas Kyoji Horiguchi is coming off of a decisive, hilarious win over Khabib teammate Tagir Ulanbekov, in which he outstruck him for two and a half rounds, out-grappled him and survived whatever grappling Tagir had to give him, and then made him wilt into a ball in the canvas to where he got his back and got the rear naked choke. It was beautiful. Kyoji Horiguchi is a tenured fighter, and he hasn't seen much defeat, but he's seen an insane amount of wins, 35-5. What a record. I think that experience is just going to take over here tonight. I think he's pretty well-rounded. Him and Amir are about the same height. Even though Kyoji's small for flyweight, Amir's not big by any means. So I think Kyoji's still going to be able to get his fast striking off, and he'll even get the wrestling off. And whatever Albazi does, I think Horiguchi has the knowledge and the tenure to counter it, as well as not get tired and keep going through the fight. He seems like he goes full steam ahead even when he is visibly kind of worn and tired. But Amir Albazi, he makes it very close. He got destroyed in his last fight badly. I think it was by Brandon Moreno over 5 rounds. It's been a minute since Albazi's fought, so you'll have to forgive me for not knowing it too well. But yeah, we're taking Kyoji Horiguchi. This is flyweight, but it's Horiguchi. I think this is a 3-rounder. If it's a 3-rounder, we're going Horiguchi decision. If it's a 5-rounder, we're going to take a Kyoji Horiguchi submission finish. That's my prediction. Moving on to the main fight of the night. Mario Bautista versus Vinicius Oliveira. This is going to be an amazing fight. These are two, they're not known in the bantamweight division too well. A lot of people know Mario Bautista for the hate watch of the Jose Aldo fight, but Vinicius Oliveira, an entertaining guy coming off of a win over Nurmagomedov, that definitely puts, something on his resume. But this is an extremely high-skilled fight. I mean, both these guys have fought vicious opponents, and I think you're going to know why I'm picking Mario Bautista. He's got better opponents on his record. I understand Oliveira beat decisively. I don't think he finished it, but over a decision he beat Said Nurmagomedov, pillow to post. Mario Bautista beat Patchy Mix over 3 rounds. He knocked down and had a very close competitive fight with Umar Nurmagomedov, and he was smart enough to get a win over a guy like Jose Aldo. Like, maybe he doesn't have a finishing instinct, but he can win a fight, and when he's losing a fight, he mentally knows, where do I need to go to win this? I don't care if the fans are going to hate me. I'm going to stall up against the cage, and as soon as we're disconnected, I'm going to reshoot on the hips. You're a bitch for that, Mario, but I'm going to pick you because I know you'll do it. That's the state of MMA. Obviously, Bautista coming off the loss to Nurmagomedov, but he took no damage. Umar doesn't hurt a fly. He doesn't hurt anyone. He hurt himself against Merab. But Bautista didn't take any damage in that fight, and he made it very close. So I think mentally and physically, he's about at his competitive peak, and I think that's more than what Vinicius Oliveira is going to be able to do. Now, don't get me wrong. This could be close. Mario Bautista could take some early damage that maybe Vinicius carries over. Vinicius is very durable. He's got a lot of cardio. He kept going in the Nurmagomedov fight. You'll have to forgive me. I don't really remember any of his other matchups, but there was just so many examples of what he does right in that Said Nurmagomedov fight. So, he's not a guy I should be counting out, and I don't think I am. He's got good counter grappling, offensive grappling when he needs it. His pace is relentless. I mean, but he definitely does get sloppy. He gets tired. Whereas Batista's just a little bit more sharp, even when the gas tank's starting to run low. Yeah, I don't know if I see a finish in this fight. Obviously, Bautista can knock a guy down, but his finishing instinct is not always there. And if Oliveira gets you seriously hurt, I think he has the better chance of finishing this fight. But I don't know if Batista's going to give him the chance. I think if Batista senses any danger on the feet or if he gets hurt in an exchange, he's using that takedown and that cage to his advantage. So we're going to take Mario Bautista by decision. It'll probably be close. Some might argue a robbery. Vinicius will look good in moments, but just make wrong decisions that got him taken down and held down for 2-3 minutes. I think that's how it's going to go. Like, comment, share, subscribe on the video. Let me know if you have any different predictions down in the comments below. I couldn't really think of like a lock for this card or like a fight of the night potential, so I didn't really want to speak on it. But it's still a good card nonetheless. Got some good names on it. And let me know if y'all like this new video style. It takes me a fat minute to edit, I won't lie to you. But if y'all are enjoying it, I'll keep making it like this. And it's fun to make. I get to infinitely yap on a screen and just cut it out once I'm all said and done. This is like the 5th take of this video. But I'm going to shut up before I mess it up again. See ya.